Okay, so I just want to introduce everyone. I'll go from my closest to furthest away. To my very left, I have Annette Moshdin, who's the VP of Business Development at City Transformer.
Yeah.
Next, I have Alain Diduka, the co-founder of Circle. Then I have Oliver Obiter, the co-founder and CEO of Microlino. And finally, I have Michele Garito, the head of brand and marketing at Kate Tech. All right, you four, I should say. Let's start off with some market sizing. So we think about the future of the car, as this panel is entitled. The car market is a multi-trillion-dollar market when you break down all of the other things that go into supporting the car and that ecosystem. And I'd love to just market size. So talk a little bit about how big is the NEV market currently, and how maybe could it be in the next several years. And before I ask my fellow panelists, I thought I'd ask the help of ChatGPT, for ChatGPT to give us a forecast on how big the NEV market is. And so ChatGPT told me that the size of the global NEV market will be around $416 million US. $4.6 billion US by 2028, growing at a compounding annual growth rate of about 6.4%. That was one answer. The second answer was that it's going to grow roughly the same, around 6%. And then another answer was that it's going to grow 9% between 2021 and 2026. The biggest markets, according to ChatGPT, are North America, China, broader Asia, but China specifically, as well as Europe. So I guess the first question, and that maybe I'll start with you, is ChatGPT correct? Is the market going to be roughly 4.6 billion, or will it be much larger or smaller, or and will it grow faster or slower than what the computer thinks?
So regarding ChatGPT, you just need to ask the right question. And I think the right question was not asking what the NEV market will be like, which is mostly US neighborhood electric vehicles, but more what this sector of microcars will be. And that is a much larger market. And yet just yesterday in the opening lecture of McKinsey, of Kirsten, we saw that the predicted value of the market is $350 billion market. So if asking what is the market for city cars, microcars, no matter how you call them, it's a very huge market. Yes, Europe, China, the US, and also India. So it's quite a huge market.
Okay. Sounds like I need to be better at prompting ChatGPT. Anyone? So you set the benchmark there in McKinsey at 350 billion.
Yeah.
By when?
By 2030, I think. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think the challenge with GPT is, of course, it's using predictions of things that were said in the past. So it's probably not the best way to forecast the market. Sure. I think that's also the exciting thing about this market, right? That if you look in the rear view mirror, you're most likely going to get it wrong. Like I'm 100% sure you're going to get it wrong.
Yes.
You really have to look into the future and how people are using their mobility devices. And I think if you look at that, and it's pretty much similar all across the world, you see that these type of microcars are really can really be a solution to make our world more sustainable, but also solve the mobility needs of people.
I mean, when you walk out of the door here, you see it in front of you. Amsterdam is so impressive. You see so many different combinations of vehicles and how they use it. And it's so much fun. And it makes us all super, I think, happy about our future because we see that it's working out.
Yeah. And Alain, maybe for you, and just I'd love to briefly explain your business model and how you're basically attacking the market a little differently than some of my other panelists.
We are addressing to cities a solution that is pretty much the same altogether. The main difference is how do we address the market? Is it B2C? Is it B2B? Is it shared mobility? And so on. So, and also I would like to point what you said is that it depends on the question you ask to ChatGPT. Let's say people, when they are talking about car sharing, is it in cities, outside the cities, is it free floating, and so on and so forth. And also, do they consider the microcars that are not considered in Europe as M1, so a real car. So it's pretty complicated to make a pure assessment. So our business model is a business model that is totally linked with the new means of shared mobility. So you have scooter, moped, and bikes now. They want to expand with their offer by offering a car. The main problem is that when you use an electric car, it's very difficult to make it profitable for several reasons we can explain. And this is what we are trying to solve for them. And of course, our solution is different from the other one because I just give an example. The car should be cleaned very quickly. It's very simple inside. It's not a value proposition when you buy a car.
Yeah.
You don't care about. But a free floater for him is very important.
Yes, absolutely. So maybe just a very quick one-word answer on some standards here. So when you say microcar, as an example, what would the weight of a microcar be? So I'll go first. Like we believe in micromobility, and it's defined as any vehicle class that's under 1,000 kilograms, which is for the U.S. that's 2,200 pounds. So kind of everything but what is mostly a car nowadays. What do you think when you say microcar? What's the weight threshold there that you'd be talking about?
Well, first of all, when we say a microcar, we speak about a city car, so everything that it can be in the city. Now, regulation-wise, it's a quadricycle, an L7 vehicle, which is limited by weight and by space speed to 90 kilometers per hour. And those limitations are good for us because it actually makes us understand that those cars are for cities and that cities don't need big cars and they don't need fast cars. So the limitations on us are good for us as a company, but still our playing field as city transformer is in the city. But there's different usages of microcar, like Kate, which is for other areas. So it's quite different for each one of us what the regulation in terms of what segment it is. But we see ourselves as micro city cars.
So no
sustainable
weight
cars.
definition necessarily, more just like what fit into an environment that the regulations in that area want you to be.
Specifically, we are the L7, which again, for a lot of politicians or regulators, when you say L7 or quadricycle, people are still not aware. That's what we're also trying to figure out, a kind of a name which will be like, more known. Like when you say, you mentioned before, Oliver, this morning, when you say what do you say? A computer, you know what a computer. When you say a car, you know what a car is. But what is an L7? What is a quadricycle? How do you picture it? So that's one of the questions. But specifically for us, yes, we're in the L7, and there's weight regulation and speed regulation.
Oliver, maybe to you, like, so what you built over the years is so impressive. Like, when you look at so much technology tends to get smaller over time. In mobility, it's often the opposite. If we think about cars, the cars has gotten, especially where I'm from, the U.S., enormous. Why is that, and how do we buck the trend of we're now going through the electric drivetrain transition, which is actually making cars even heavier. Like what's the trend what's gonna happen that makes us buck this trend?
I think the problem is that weight and size is not taxed in the right way, or disincentivized in the right way. So I think we are still very much, from an economic point of view, right? The customer is still very much trained to assign value to something more like a residential building, right? So the larger the square meters you live in, the more you're willing to pay. And this is sort of a mindset, unfortunately, that they also have with cars. Now, what it means is that economically, it is very challenging to make small cars so that they are profitable, right? Or small vehicles so that they are profitable. In fact, that's why, for example, if you look at Smart as a great example, I mean, they're ditching their two-seater EV for a crossover SUV. I mean, they're sort of going very far from what their original core idea was. And I think that is really the issue, right? Because small vehicles don't necessarily mean that they are that much cheaper to manufacture. You still need 4 wheels, you need 4 brakes, you need a steering wheel. So you need a lot of the stuff you need also in a large car. And I think that is the primary problem, right? I think there's some rethinking. So just recently, I think Lyon announced that they will start to tax vehicles. The vehicles above 1,000 kilograms have to pay more in parking fees or taxes or whatever. So these type of trends, and like if you look at Japan, where, for example, this category K cars, which is also sort of a microcar, a little bit, the definition is definitely different from what we have in Europe. But still, I mean, there you've got, let's say, various tax incentives and so on that make sure that actually 30 to 40% of the new vehicle registrations are K cars in Japan. And I think, you need sort of also this sort of external impulse that people start to downsize. I think it's a lot in the minds, but honestly, at the moment, there's nothing, at least in Europe and in the US, there's absolutely nothing done to incentivize the use of these vehicles compared to a SUV.
So on that, I think still a lot of head nodding. Does anyone believe that the answer to bucking the trend is something other than regulation?
Yeah, definitely. I think there is a mindset switch that we all can already observe in our society, that people think more about what do I really need, what do I really want, and this is what we see with Microlino. It's a huge success because the people are observing how much fun it is to have something fitting to their needs, and I think this is all our task is to redefine a car regarding the usage. Like, what do we do with it? And I think as soon as the consumers are enjoying it as much as we do it already, it will go on its own.
I agree. I think at the end of the day, there are multiple ways to solve this problem, and we should try all the different ways. So one way is, of course, regulation. The other way is also really from a marketing standpoint to change sort of the mindset of consumers, bring these vehicles out there, make people use them. So in our example, what we see with the first hundreds of customers that are using them, they buy it, because they think it's fun, etc., and they understand that, it makes total sense. But when they start to really use it, that's really when they start to understand that it makes sense, that it's really for 90 to 95% of trips, it is the perfect solution for their needs. But this you have to sort of experience. You cannot tell this to someone. They have to experience it.
And why is it a new market? It's because years before, the OEMs were not willing to build such kind of car. As you said, it was too expensive for them. So if you don't have any offer, why could you expand the market? Now, small companies like we are providing to the market vehicles that the consumer will love for sure. And of course, if they can be incentivized by the governments, it will be better. But I think that for sure the consumer love it, but in fact doesn't know it. They discover little by little, and it's because of the past.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's exactly like where your first customers use it and they love it. They're the best advocates because they advocate that, well, I don't have so much time to spend looking for a parking space. And the cities like it because, again, downsizing and everything about footprint is very important. It's not just about making a vehicle electric, because from a satellite point of view, if every regular 5-seater vehicle will be electric, still everything will be congested and a lot of areas with people for parking and roads and everything, all the infrastructure. And when you downsize vehicle, you can free up space for the cities, and it's good for from a political point of view, and also from the consumer, having a better living in the city and still having the chance to mobilize from one point to another and easily find a parking space.
Okay, so again, I'm hearing things like storytelling. I'm hearing things like positioning, potentially the onset of new modes now that we have. One question I have for you is when we think about other micromobility modes, they tend to all have tipping points at one way or the other. So I know we heard from the swap feeds yesterday on the stage, hundreds of thousands of subscribers, kind of entered the market, I think with a beautiful story and a brand, the Blue Wheel, but also the subscription model as potentially a differentiated style that really worked. In the US, we have the example of like Mike Radenbaugh and building the Fat Tire e-bike that, of course, is now basically the standard in the U.S. For electric bikes, and they're doing over 200,000 units a year. We have Electric out of the U.S. Levi and that team really just figuring out the low-end model. Shipping an XP Lite at sub $800 with hydraulic brakes, selling. Started 3 years ago, selling over 150,000 units now. So we have good examples in micro of, I think, legitimate either business model innovations or hardware innovations. Different styles. Do you see anything about the micro car, the NEV? Like, do you see any true more hardware tipping point where you're like, oh, if we could design it like this, like the Rad, or the price like the Electric, or like swap feats with the Blue and the Story and the subscription just being a superior model, that would be the tipping point. So not regulation, not necessarily I'm doing it out of my best heart. It's something to do with actually the way the vehicle is or the way I buy the vehicle that will really allow this to tip into the mainstream. And sorry, that was long.
I think for sure price is a big answer to that. I think.
Can I interrupt you there, Oliver?
Sure.
So the average U.S. car now is selling for $48,000. Thanks to Michele, she told me the average European car, I think, is selling for 43,000 euros. Your vehicles are going to be much cheaper than that, right? So I just want to maybe push back a little bit. Is it really priced? These other things are wildly more expensive.
I think the issue is if cars were priced right without incentives, I think we would already be there. The issue, for example, in Europe is that let's take the example of Germany and France, where electric cars get huge bonuses. Like in Germany last year, it was like 6,000 euros. Whereas our category gets a grand total of €0. And of course, I mean, at this sort of price point, 6,000 euros makes a hell of a difference. And, you start to sort of argue with customers to say like, yeah, but, it's just more challenging. So I think we would already probably be there if there were not if there was not, let's say, the market that was sort of twisted by these incentives. But yeah, I think it's generally it's probably the price band. The ideal price band is starts probably at around 8,000, something like that, up to around 20,000. That's sort of the price band. I think what we also have to consider is that these type of products, I think, will be very much used both in sharing, but also, let's say, things like subscription, also leasing, where the purchase price becomes less and less important, where it's really about the monthly rate, which is much easier to sort of, it's a much lower hurdle. My guess is that we will reach the tipping point in about 1-2 years. I think we are not, I think product-wise, we are sort of there. Price-wise, I think some of the incentives are going out, so it will be, and prices are also coming down. I think it's also that we need really these cars these vehicles out on the streets. That's the thing, right? People need to see them, need to try them. Sharing can play a big role in that.
Yep.
But also first customers, that are driving around. So people see like, oh, wow, this is actually, and they start to think because before they are really on the roads, and you just see them in newspapers. For most consumers, it's not real. It's not real yet. So I think this will, I would say 1-2 years, and we will reach the tipping point.
Yeah, the time to market is important. But another thing is that regulation-wise, but more of like a lot of European cities now are banning cars out of specific areas. Like, for instance, the C40 coalition of the cities. So at least 36 cities are saying we're going to have zones within the city with limited access, whether it's no vehicles at all or just limited vehicles. So those kind of actual, if it's really going that way, that's the playground for us, because that's where we offer a sustainable solution which can go into the cities. So working with the cities, understanding their pain points, and actually deploying as fast as possible the solutions in the city, I think that's a tipping point.
Okay, so again, hearing a lot of marketing regulation. Well, I think we're talking a lot about regulations in general here. It sounds like we really fundamentally believe that regulations could play a very big role in adoption. Clearly, we know about the car lobbying power that's out there all around the world. We at Micromobility Industries track incentives for things like electric bikes. There's over 650 roughly electric bike incentives around the world now. Quite a few of those are in Europe and the US, not much in the rest of the world yet. Why is there no coalition among folks like yourselves to allow for better? I mean, it sounds like you're betting a lot on lobbying, on regulations changing, but I know of no coalition to actually make that happen. Why is that?
Well, the good news
Well,
is,
this is exactly, yeah.
Maybe they have an announcement for us today?
yeah, actually, just today we announced that we are forming a coalition together. At the moment, it's City Transformer, Circle, and us, and I hope you guys will also join. It was put together quite on short notice, and we said it would be the right forum to present this. But the target is that we bring together several players, and I think we'll be probably around 7 members, to sort of align on a set of things we want to communicate to politicians, also to the public, to sort of make this category known and understood and make its benefits understood so that it really finds also the place we think it deserves in the future mobility mix.
I just want to emphasize that we didn't just wake up this morning and decided to form this coalition.
No.
We've been working on it for quite a while with the more companies that are not here today. But yes, that we understood that each one of us is struggling or to face politicians and say to them, okay, this is good for you because we believe it's good for you. And if you want to encourage this, then maybe you should provide soft incentives. So for each one of us to do it alone, it's quite a hassle and a headache. But if we form like a coalition and have like a coordinated approach, a coordinated strategy, and then come together, or even if it's just Oliver goes now to speak to someone and says, yeah, I'm Microlino and I'm part of this microcar, city car, again, whatever coalition, it's something different because it's not him standing alone. It's a whole bunch of companies that will work together for this, for actually encouraging the sector, which is quite important in order to bring the cities back to its people and not around cars.
And I think this is like a beautiful example as well for micromobility as itself, like that you're disrupting those old structures, that mobility is something that is happening somewhere like hidden in big firms. So here, also you see it here on the conference, like everything is very open-minded, everybody is exchanging ideas, and everybody sees the possibilities that we have all together. So when we are talking about cities, but also rural areas where micromobility will take place in the future, I think this is the attractiveness of the product itself, that the consumers understand that it's a collaborative process and not something that is engineered somewhere in an office. So it has so many positive sides that I think, besides the fact regulations and not regulations and understanding, not understanding, as soon as the market is going to be attractive enough with an offer, because you see it with Citroën Ami is something that is sold out since months. The car is sold more expensive on second-hand markets because there is just not enough stock anymore. So I think this is like just a beautiful example of this coalition, but also the offer needs to be there in order that it gets to like the push into the market. So I'm excited about next year when what we're gonna talk about.
Yeah.
What it's going to look like.
Yeah. As coalition, we represent employment. We represent probably the best climate mobility solution ever.
Yeah.
We bring a sustainable solution to cities. And if we are together, it's easier to communicate. We are stronger. And we have to communicate to the end user. Make our mean known with a name. We don't know which one right now. And second, regarding the municipalities, for sure.
Yeah.
So this is the way to succeed.
Yeah.
I was telling Michele this morning that the common question coming from investors are, who are your competitors? And so what we say is, we don't have competitors. We see them as partners because we're educating a market here. Each one of us has its own solution, its own unique value proposition, its own business model. But together, we're educating a market. And again, as we started, there's a huge market. And we see it in McKinsey, in Bloomberg, the reports. You see it in the cities, the vehicle themselves. So there's a huge market. And we're just educating it both onto the public, but also to the to the regulators, to the policymakers, to the authorities, to make them understand why this kind of solutions are a really good advantage for them.
Yeah. Okay. So we're not done yet, but I would like to give you all a round of applause because we are, we can complain about regulations, but you've gone out as very different companies and formed a coalition, which I do think is going to make a big difference. So can we give them a round of applause for this? I think that. And sorry, Michaela, when is Kate joining? This is like just peer pressure now, but.
That's why I clapped. Still sitting on the side.
Okay, so on the incentive, I'd just be curious if anyone has what is a price point that could be a tipping point, So clearly, coalition starts, everything goes good. I think it's very natural that the government would start to incentivize these. It would, of course, be different by jurisdictions, but do you have any sense of if I could get my vehicle at this price instead of this price, I think it's, that's going to be a massive tipping point on the price curve in adoption.
Yeah, of course, there is always some psychological price points that make a huge difference.
Yep.
The question is if you really want to go there. Of course, let's say the 10K price point is a very obvious one. But yeah, as said, I think probably it's becoming less and less relevant. And this, because let's say these type of vehicles and also cars in general, I mean, it's more and more financed, it's leased, so it's really about the monthly rate. And then what is the big driver is the residual value. So I think you will move a bit away from saying, okay, I just got to be below 10K to sort of thinking, okay, how can I get an attractive monthly rate by sort of balancing my product costs, but also making sure that the product has a certain longevity so that it can be sold multiple times and used with a life cycle as long as a car, right? I mean, that's, in my opinion, also what we should aim for, I think there are many downsides to cars, but what we can say as a product, cars have a pretty long life cycle. They live pretty long compared to a lot of other product categories. And I think this is one of the things we should also aim to do. And I think with the financialization of the vehicle purchase, there is also really incentive to make sure that you have a good residual value.
Yep.
What I find also super important when we talk about pricing and what makes a product attractive, for us, it's definitely as well a European production. It's also about reindustrializing the countries and bringing back knowledge to Europe. And I think this is especially, I mean, there will be very attractive price points very soon because we have a lot of good friends coming from Asia and other regions in the world that are developing amazing microcars as well. So all of us, we know that we have to think about European productions, suppliers, and I think that's also a very important topic. What is also important for the customers, very important in the end.
Our business model is slightly different, of course, but can help to adopt the private car because we will start with a rather low cost because it's a cost per minute, and it's going to be just the double of a scooter. So that's not huge. I mean, you can use it with two people. You can bring things in the car, training, and so on. So we think that it's going to be a competitive solution in order to start using those microcars.
Mm-hmm. From a consumer perception perspective, I think many of you have cracked the code. You've started to crack the code on the idea that these cars look fun and appealing and sexy and cute. And, I hear all these descriptions for all your vehicles, even just on the test track out there, right? When people see it and point. And that's great. I think there's like a real smile to their eye. How do you continue to push that idea of cool and fun and sexy? Because it seems like that does drive so much consumer behavior in the automobile market. And how much do you balance that with the utility message of this is better for the world, this is better for our city, this is better for our children? I'm just curious on that. If you push both levers, utility and fun and sexy, is it a mix? Is it one or the other? Just curious.
My opinion is that you always push the utility and sustainable factor, whereas the fun and sexy is something that you just have to be, right? I mean, it's like if you're saying like look how beautifully designed it is. Like, I mean, I know, of course you say that, and I'm sure we also are guilty of saying that a couple of times, but, I mean, this is something that people will judge from themselves. I mean, I don't think they care if you say it's beautifully designed or not or whatever. So I think, we focus a lot on, let's say, really this mindset shift, and then let really the product and the marketing and the website and all the sort of marketing materials we create speak for themselves.
But for sure, you have to make a sexy product.
Yeah, yeah.
When you
exactly.
drive a car, if the car is ugly, you are not proud. I mean, and it's important.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's key.
I think yesterday Horace said in the morning that you have a lot of data, but you still need to speak to people's hearts. And I think speaking to their hearts, you have a beautiful project, a sexy car, whatever, but still you want them to understand what this car can help them and how it can save them their headache in finding a parking space, or how it's much going to be better for them when cities are banning out vehicles and they can still drive this vehicle inside. So that's kind of, I think, the cool stuff about it. It's not necessarily that it's a beautiful car, but it's a more efficient car. You get from A to B much faster. You don't have your headache trying to find for a car parking space. So those are the kind of things that you need to stress on.
Good. Yeah.
In my point of view, a product always needs to be very well designed. But I think, we all agree it needs to be beautiful in order that it's fun. It's also maybe one reason why the microcar was not that successful in the past, because it was not always the best design, I would say. And now we all understood that this is definitely important.
In Italy, they have this nice word for it. They say bella figura, which means if if someone has a shitty car and we produce in Italy, so that's why I know this. So if someone has a shitty car, they're not parking directly in front of the restaurant. They're parking one street back and they come on foot because they don't want people to see what kind of garbage they're driving. And I think it's super important for these type of vehicles, and it's more challenging because they're small, right? That you go out and you're proud of getting out and in, because there is so much emotional sort of coming into this buying decision that you don't see in statistics and you will never see, but that will make a huge influence whether you buy the vehicle or not.
Yes. So going back to regulation really quickly, we talked about, of course, price being so important and what we can do there. We talked about, especially here in Europe, a trend of cities starting to close off access to things that to normal sized vehicles. In the US, I'd say one of the issues I hear, barriers to entry on buying a microcar is I can't daisy chain my trips together because the speed limits are too high. So, artillery roads are up at 45 miles per hour and, then 35, residential's 25. How much is speed going to be an important issue with your coalition in trying to, of course, calm streets down, maybe to allow for, of course, your vehicles and again, maybe in being global companies, just curious if it's okay in Europe that streets are slower. That's not the case in, again, like places like the United States. I'm just curious how much you've thought about speed and what might go into that.
Well, today the speed in the cities is even slower than it was with a horse and a carriage. So we don't worry much about speed, but our vehicles, again, are limited by 90 kilometers per hour, but it's 90 kilometers per hour is enough. So I think in that direction, we're good.
I think there's a challenge in the US.
Do you think people feel safe, though, going 90 kilometers an hour in a car that size when you're next to a car that's much bigger?
In the city area and the surroundings, and you're not going to go to use it from Milan to Rome. That's not the issue here. You're going to go from Milan into the surrounding areas, and mostly use it within the city, and only maybe parts of the time go on the highway. But the vehicles, they're stable and I don't see any reason why you will feel not secure, not safe, or anything like that when you're next to a big vehicle. You're just going to say hi and pass him quite quickly.
Okay, final question, rapid fire, only one response. Not easy. This is inspired by my colleague, Julia. We ask on our show every week. Your favorite you all have beautiful micro cars, by the way, I believe. Your favorite micro car that's not your own?
Well, And not because he's sitting here, but I've been
Oh,
following
wow, going for a
Microlino
fellow panelist.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, for quite a while. He
Alon?
knows it.
I should say the Microlino. I like
Wow,
the
you got
vintage
two, okay.
aspect of the Microlino. yeah.
Okay, now I'm torn.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got some friends.
Okay, I haven't seen your vehicle, so you're out of competition. Oh, it's difficult. All right, I go for a city
Oh,
transporter.
wow, this is a very, yeah, okay. Michaela, take us home.
I'm absolutely fan of Microlino. I think it's a
Wow.
beautiful product, and I think it's everybody who gets out of the cars has a big smile. So
Okay. Microlino for the win. Congratulations, Oliver. Please join me in thanking my panelists. Hey.
Thank you.